Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting on living and working in Norway, this presentation. First, I'd like to give you some general Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting on living and working in Norway, this presentation. First, I'd like to give you some general information on Norway. It's a fairly big country. It's more or less the same size as Germany, just a little bit smaller. We have only 5.5 million inhabitants, and most of those inhabitants live in the area around the capital, Oslo, and Viken, the surrounding area. Oslo has about now nearly 700,000 inhabitants, and the Oslo and surrounding areas need now say is 1 million. And as you also, I guess you know that Norway is not a member of the EU. We are a member of the EEA agreement, but we are a member of this free movement of goods, services, and work movement. Our currency is Norwegian krona. About €1 is 10 Norwegian krona. We have a constitutional monarchy. King Harald V is our king now. And we have a prime minister called Erna Solberg. She is the head of the Conservative Party, and she leads a coalition of altogether 4 parties. She's been in office for some years now. And the color for map of Norway is show the different regions we now have in Norway. From this year on, they merged some regions, so now there are a lot less than it used to be. And up in the corner, the little blue is Svalbard or Spitsbergen. That is also a part of Norway. I have to inform you that there are quite a lot of travel restrictions to come for Norway. It's not as smooth and easy as it used to be. And that has to do with the coronavirus infection control for travel and entry quarantine. People arriving in Norway from abroad shall be in quarantine for 10 days. And people who should be in quarantine after entering Norway should stay at the quarantine hotel. The only exceptions is if that you are a resident of Norway and own a flat in Norway. Anyone arriving from red countries, which now is all of Europe with exemption of a few areas in Finland, they must present a certificate of negative COVID-19 test when they arrive in Norway upon arrival. So please stay updated at the fhi.no, or also look at the Reopen Euro EU. There you find updated information. This information changes all the time. As it is for now, these rules on travel restrictions are valid until May next year, but there might come changes before that. So that you know, if there are any changes in the corona situation. And then some facts about corona in Norway. Well, again, region Oslo and Viken, the surrounding areas, have the highest number of infected people. Face mask you have to wear on or public transport, shops, and etc. Pubs, fitness centers, cinemas, theaters, opera house, etc. They are all closed. And in addition, in Oslo, there is a alcoholic ban. You are not allowed to drink alcohol in restaurants in Norway right now. You can only drink that you buy yourself in a Norwegian Vin Monopoly and drink it home. Everyone that has a possibility for it should stay in home office. And maximum 5 people can be invited if you want to invite guests to your home. And all these rules apply until the 14th of December, but they can be extended. So in number of people that are hospitalized for the time being, or today, is 122. And people that have died of COVID-19 in Norway so far altogether are 328. And as you could see, the numbers are not very high, but that's the reason why also the travel restrictions are that strict. But then this corona situation will eventually, hopefully next year, diminish or disappear totally. And then it's possible to travel again and to look for jobs in other countries. And if you have interested in going for Norway, there are some homepages you should look into, have a closer look at. And that's first of all, NAV and Arbeidsplassen.no. They are more or less the same. At Arbeidsplassen, you find the actual vacancies, and on nav.no, you find information in English regarding jobs and what applies to you, what would apply for you, or information in general. Finn.no is a private homepage, and of course, you have the EURES portal. And in addition to all this, you should also maybe get in touch with some recruiting agency or agency for temporary work. Most of the foreigners in Norway actually get their first job through some kind of recruiting agency. If you have already know someone or have a network, you can use that. And social media is widely used, especially LinkedIn. But there might also be possibilities to use Facebook or Twitter, and maybe also other medias. If you have some specific skills that might not be widely known or well, be very known, then you should also try to get direct in contact with companies in order to present yourself. That will also be a good idea then. There are, of course, more homepages to look into, so you can try use Google, look. But these are the most known ones. And at Finn.no, they have you can also find housing, lots of other stuff. So what's the shortage? That is, for the time being, very much in the health sector, nurses, and then in particular specialized nurses, doctors, pharmacists, and there is some vacancy of pharmacists on this event from Norway. And bear in mind that in order to work as a nurse in Norway or a health worker, you need recognition from our health directorate, Helsedirektoratet. So you cannot start working until you have that recognition. And in addition, most employers will require that you have a fairly high Norwegian skills. Needs level B3, but it can be possible to start out in B2 in some places. In addition to health workers, there is a need for IT specialists, and then you do not have to know Norwegian. For some of those jobs, it's sufficient that you have high English skills. That's okay. There is also a need for like other kind of construction workers and so on, but it's during this situation, like you mentioned, the travel situation makes the employers not very willing to hire people from outside of Norway. And what do Norway and your region have in common? And that's, of course, mountains. Maybe ours are not as tall and steep as yours in the Alps, but we have a huge variety of mountains, and a huge area of Norway consists of mountains. Some go direct to the fjord, and others are more like this into the inland, the country. So if you like being up in the mountains area in your region, maybe also Norway would not be too bad for you to stay here or to have kind of work here, hospitality, whatever. When this all is over, it can be a possibility to do that, for instance. And then to prepare yourself, and if you have time for it, you can do a Norwegian course online. There are lots of offerings, and they're fairly good for beginners. You might have to pay if you come on to the more advanced level, but for the start, these are all good. The ones that you have to pay for, they are then again, on the other hand, quite more expensive. But I would recommend you, if you're curious about going for Norway, try out the ones that for free. And then you have a large advantage if you, maybe next year, the autumn, or the year after, if you already know the language you can communicate, then it will be a great advantage for you, or a lot easier to start working in Norway. If you're wondering anything about how it all works, like the legal way, or with the taxes, or the social care, or with the family, or whatever, you can find an answer to it on this homepage. They are linked directly to the most public homepages in Norway, and they have a huge variety of information regarding whatever your question might be. So before you send an email or before you call someone, go in here and try and find out. Most of these places have good information in English, where you are linked directly further on to. And they also always have updated information as you come directly into the homepage of the different public authorities. A little bit on job seeking and CV. So a cover letter and a CV in English is sufficient. If you know Norwegian on a fairly good level, then you can write in Norwegian. But until you come onto that level, you do it in English. Employers understand English, and also for lots of the jobs, especially in service, and so it is sufficient with English. And make sure that when you write your CV, that you make it as easy as possible for the employer to understand what your background is. And you must somehow place your mind into a mind of a Norwegian employer and say to yourself, what would he understand of this, he or she? So make it as easy as possible for them so that they can understand what your skills are and where you, so that they also get the extract of your background in a short time, and it's easy to find all your the qualities or your background. The last point you see here, references, is very widely used in Norway, and it doesn't have to be a boss that's the reference. It can be also a colleague, someone that can say anything on how you perform your job. That's the main point here. And what are the companies looking for? Yeah, in general, this is all in general. They are looking for dedicated professionals, of course. And the second point, motivation. Motivation is what they're looking most of all for. What's your motivation to get a job? Why would you work exactly for that company? They will try to figure out that in your cover letter or in the interview or the talk with you later on. And of course, it's important also to have the right attitude, social skills, and desire to deliver. And the second last point here, candidates who dare to ask questions are also and take initiative ask for. In Norway, not in all places, but some places, you work more together as a team. Some places it can even be difficult to track out who's actually the managing director. Work together, and then of course your motivation for working for them is very important. Also, they want you to, maybe you have a new idea, maybe that they will be listening then, or they want you to come up with new of how to do the job. So, and this is also why motivation is very much asked for. And we do have a Working Environment Act, and bear in mind that everyone are entitled to a written employment contract, and that contract should contain the information in short that's listed here: when you start, working hours, wages, paid when and how often, and so on. If you want to know more about how the Working Environment Act should look like and how work life in Norway is, you should check out the Norwegian Labour Inspection Authority, Arbeidstilsynet.no. They have lots of good information in English, also in other languages. And in Norway, there's also a culture for trade unions. So if you find a job that you really want to keep, then we advise you to enter the union. And because they will also be able, they're the ones that will help you out in case if you should get into trouble of some kind.